Hello, I'm Waterstones Children's Laureate Joseph Coelho, and I love poetry, and I think you can love poetry too. We are at CLPE, the Centre for Literacy and Primary Education, in their beautiful library space, and today I am joined by the poetry superstar, Michael Rosen. Hello, Michael.
Hello, Joe.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us for today's poetry prompt. Now, today we're going to have a conversation about poetry and where we find inspiration and how we get writing. I've got some questions here that I wanted to ask to get us started, and at the end I thought we could have a special poetry challenge.
Great, looking forward to it.
The first question I wanted to ask you was, do you remember the first poem you ever wrote and what inspired it?
Yes, I do. I was at primary school and we were making a magazine. I think it was a class magazine, not a school magazine. I think I was in what we would now call Year 6. We used to call fourth year juniors.
Oh, yeah.
And I decided to write a poem about the train, because I lived in Pinner in northwest London, and there was a station, and I used to wait on the station for my mum to come back from the school where she used to teach. So I used to sit on the station and watch the trains. My poem was about a train, and the only line I remember from it, it's not the most exciting line of a poem in world history. Here it comes. And now the train is slowing down. It's not a great line, but actually when I work with children, I say, can you think of all the different ways you could say it? Because sometimes poetry is about how you say things with your voice and your body. So you could say it angrily. And now the train is slowing down. Or you could say quite jolly. And now the train is slowing down. Could be sad. Now the train slowing down. So even a line like that's very ordinary. You can make it extraordinary by your expression.
And then from the different ways that they're saying it, that could lead to, if they continued it on, to different types of poems, couldn't it? It could be an angry poem, there could be a ponderous poem, a poem that's quite sad. Oh, now the train is slowing down. And then therefore, what is the story? That's a lovely way in, isn't it?
Yeah, and you can decide whether it's a last line or a first line. So if it could be, one of those poems where you start in the middle of the action. So, and now the train is slowing down as an opener. Yeah. Because, sometimes poems can start where you don't have, like in stories, you sometimes have to kind of do an intro. Yeah. Poems don't need intros. It could be bam right in the middle. Yeah. Or it could be the conclusion, that sitting on the train or something, and then that's the end of it. Yeah. And now the train is slowing down. Bye-bye.
Yeah. ... Yeah. It's funny because I remember writing, I likewise don't remember the poem, but I remember writing at school for a competition. We had a rare poetry competition, and I'd watched a documentary about bears being treated horribly. And so I wrote a poem about the bear, which I can't remember, but I remember the title was Unbearable.
Oh, and
that's all I can remember. That's all I can remember of the poem.
Well, yeah, people play around with bear as a pun, don't they? Bare necessities, think of Jungle Book. But unbearable for the treatment of bears. That's great. Yeah. Oh, little Joe. Yeah, very good.
But I think that was the first time I remember writing a poem, purely as a creative, that I wasn't analysing a poem or, it was just the joy of poetry. Another thing I really enjoyed sort of whilst discovering poetry was spooky poems. And one book that sort of turned me on to spooky poems was this one, Spine Tinglers, which you have a poem in. And I'd forgotten about this book until recently when someone posted a picture of it online. And it must have been when I was just learning to read, because I saw the cover and was like, all these memories came flooding back. And then I got the book and was remembering all these gorgeous illustrations.
Really good.
And and they're a little bit spooky as well. We've got like some weird witches and ghouls and ghosts, and we've got your gorgeous poem in there a long time ago. Yeah. I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about the inspiration between and maybe read us this poem.
Yeah, well, the inspiration for it is actually something very, very real. So I lived in Pinner in northwest London, and there was a church in Pinner, a village church, and a graveyard, cemetery in the church there, and a very strange tower in the church, and about halfway up you can see a sort of stone box sticking out of the side of the tower.
Oh my gosh.
And my dad, when we walked past it, he would say what that was. So in a way, this is where we all live in places where are sort of odd and strange things, and people tell us about them. So this is kind of oral history, if you like, the things that people say. So these are sometimes can be legends. So people say, well, people say such and such. These are great things to write down because they're part of our surroundings. And sometimes they're wrong and sometimes they're right. People say that there's a ghost in there, or people say that there was an old woman in there and she did blah, blah, blah. Well, this is really about this one. So as far as I know, this is true.
Wow, wait.
So here we go. And it's in a book called You Tell Me that I did with Roger McGough. And it goes like this. A long time ago, there was a man who lived round our way, and he said, when I die, I don't want to be buried in the ground. I want to be buried in the air. So he set about making sure he would be buried in the air. He got people to build him a big yellow tower. He said, I want to be buried halfway up this tower. Not long after he died, when they came to bury him, they decided that they didn't want to bury him in the air, halfway up the tower, so they buried him in the ground instead. And there was nothing on earth he could do about it. But the tower's still there, and everyone knows it was built for the man who wanted to be buried in the air, but couldn't make sure he would be. Anyway, the whole idea of being buried in the air, it's a sort of lovely, it's what's called an oxymoron, isn't it?
Yeah.
A thing where you've got two halves of a phrase, and the two halves don't make sense together. You can't be buried in the air. It's an absolute opposite. What's that?
Well, Michael, that is the Poetry Power-Up sound, which means it's time for our poetic challenge. So I've got a poem here with lots of blanks, and we're going to fill in the blanks with some different words to make an interesting poem. So I thought if we just read a verse each so that those watching can get an idea. So the first verse, at the moment, goes like this. A blank has the power to build the highest blank, to paint the prettiest blank. A blank has the power.
In that tower of blank, you may find a blooming blank. As you paint with blank and blank, you'll find a blank can test your blank.
Ooh. So lots of blanks to fill in there.
Maybe the people watching it are already thinking of what to fill in.
What they can fill in.
Yeah.
Well, actually, this poem, with all the blanks, is available on the Book Trust website.
Yes.
For everyone watching to download, as well as a list of words that you can also download to fill into the poem.
Oh, right. Or you can make up your own.
Or you can make up your own words. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we're going to have a go now.
Yes.
And then we'll read our poems and see what they...
Oh, right. We do it quietly on our own. We're not doing it together.
We can do it together.
Well, let's see what happens. Let's do it together.
Okay, let's do it together.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about that has the power?
Oh,
what if there's an ancient Jewish mythic character called the Goylem. Some people pronounce it Golem. It depends. All right. And the Golem is like a man-made automaton. It's made out of clay or mud. Yeah. And he's a giant who can protect people. But also he goes nuts. He starts crazy, breaking stuff up. So he's both kind, but also, whoa. And there have been films about him. So I'm going to start off with the Goylem, which is spelled Golem.
Golem.
So we've got a Goylem has the power. So you could do the next bit.
To build the highest...
Could be anything.
Could be anything, couldn't it? Pencil.
Yeah, I'm sort of thinking we could play with tower, couldn't we?
Tower has the power to build the highest tower.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Go on then.
So we're making up some of our own words, which you guys can do
A tower.
as well. To paint the prettiest...
Well, we could keep going with the rhyme. We could actually make it bower. Oh, and a bower is like a sort of collection of flowers, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's where you sit in a bower. I think it happens in Shakespeare. So you sit in a bower, which is like a sort of, like a kind of sofa, and then you'd be surrounded with flowers. So to paint the prettiest bower.
Is that B-O-W-E-R?
That's it. And then maybe repeat Goylem. A Goylem has the power. So we've done a 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so we've got A, B, C, A rhyme scheme there.
Excellent.
A Goylem has the power to build the highest tower, to paint the prettiest bower. A Goylem has the power. I'm not sure whether we're going to be able to repeat that, but anyway. Yeah.
We could do a verse on a different thing each time.
Yeah. And now it's the next one.
In that tower of...
Right.
Or we can do bowers, can't we?
Well, no, we don't need to stick with hour. Let's make it something completely different. In that tower... Oh, I see. No, we've got bower, then a blooming flower. Oh, goodness me. On the next line, you may find a blooming flower in there. This is very hour-ish, isn't it? In the tower of... We can make up any word for that.
Yeah.
It's like a place name.
Yeah.
Glendower, right? In the Tower of Glendower, which is the name of a Welsh king, you may find a blooming flower as you paint with...
Scents, smells, pollen.
Pollen is beautiful. As you paint with pollen, we got a bit of alliteration there, as you paint with pollen and... what else might you paint with?
Leaves, aromas.
Oh, that's nice. As you paint with pollen and aroma, you'll find a blank contest your blank. That ought to be power.
So power there.
Or powers. You test your power, yeah. So you'll find a blank contest your power.
A sneeze.
A sneeze. That's quite funny. Let's go back. In that Tower of Glendower, you may find a blooming flower. As you paint with pollen and aromas, you'll find a blank contest your power. Yeah. Sneeze is quite good because you'll be sniffing the scent.
Yeah.
Yes. Or you can find a scent contest your power. Maybe another P would be good, wouldn't it?
A petal.
A petal.
You can find a petal contest your power.
Okay. You read the first verse. I'll read the second verse.
Okay. A golem has the power to build the highest tower, to paint the prettiest bower. A golem has the power.
In that Tower of Glendower, you may find a blooming flower. As you paint with pollen and aromas, you'll find a petal contest your power.
I quite like that.
It's not bad.
I think that is fantastic. And that's us done. If you guys watching at home or at school want to have a go, you can get your teachers or an adult to download the poem with all the blanks from the Book Trust website, booktrust.org.uk/poetry prompts. If you need help with words, there's a word list that you can download as well. Or like Michael and I did, you can make up your own words to add into the poem. So good luck and happy writing.
Jelly.